area on optoelectronic microchips. Okay?
Yeah.
Yours.
Yeah, I think before we get into the project, a quick introduction about myself would be nice. So me, I'm currently a high schooler at Thomas Jefferson High School. It's based in Alexandria. It's near the Washington, D.C. area in the United States. And I'm also the co-founder and CEO/CTO of a deep tech startup where we're building computer hardware that's tuned towards artificial intelligence applications. So we build, manufacture, ship out AI microchips to power large language models and other AI constructs. So that's primarily what this research topic is about. We're anticipating the AI gold rush that's happening over the last decade. We see generative AI and protein folding, right? Like ChatGPT, Google Bard, AlphaFold, all these large language models and large AI models, they're also coming with one primary problem. They have a large computational demand. Not only are they extremely powerful, but they are also extremely computationally intensive from a linear algebra perspective. And at the same time that this boom in AI is happening, we also see one more drawback. That drawback is, as I think Neil was talking about earlier today, it's the decline of Moore's Law. Exactly when AI is starting to spike up, Moore's Law is starting to flatline. So we're having a super big need for Moore's Law to start picking up or for hardware to keep up with AI's rate of growth. And people have been trying to solve this problem for a while. We've been trying to raise hardware's capabilities to meet AI for a very long time. We saw CPUs, they've been created a very long time ago. There are AI-specific CPUs. Now we have GPUs, and they came out with GPUs in the late 1900s and began to tune them towards AI applications. And as AI's need became more and more prevalent in the area, Google developed the TPU, which is an AI mathematical accelerator. It specializes in running large neural network models like ChatGPT, for example. But there's still one problem with all of this that I mentioned earlier. They're all fundamentally tied towards Moore's Law, which means that at a certain future date, like a few years from now, they're no longer going to be able to reap the benefits of smaller and smaller transistor sizes. Rather, we're going to have to find some alternative computing paradigm that's not tied towards Moore's Law. And what's perhaps even more worrisome is the gigantic software moat that rests on top of these traditional microchips. If all of these microchips are limited by Moore's Law's decline, and we have TensorFlow, SciPy, PyTorch, all these frameworks are also dependent on these maybe faulty microchips. How are we going to change all of those? Then all of a sudden we have a new microchip, just rewrite it. That's not going to work. So economically speaking, and even technically speaking, we have to create a new hardware and software approach to solve this problem. So that's the primary aspect of my research. We created a custom linear algebra accelerator where rather than using the ones and zeros that are traditionally associated with computing, right? For digital computers, you have ones and zeros on and off voltage signals that are fundamentally based on transistors. We just discarded all of that. And instead, we use a continuous range of signals, ranging from many continuous values through analog computing. And rather than using electricity to power our chips, we use light. So we use silicon photonic accelerators that are in the analog domain, and we tune them to perform AI-specific applications to make up for the limitations that Moore's Law has on these traditional electronic approaches. And then from the software end, we present software that's able to access this optical hardware, this light-powered hardware, and it's actually the first programming language that's ever been created that works with optical hardware. So it's some sort of optical programming language. So going into the hardware for a bit, We call it tachyon. Tachyon comes from faster than light particle. Tachyon MPU stands for matrix processing unit. And if you're familiar with traditional CPUs, how they work is they take sequential streams of data. They go one step, and they process in a scalar fashion. And NVIDIA improved upon this by creating a GPU, which processes on rows of data at a time. And then Google took this one step further, and rather than processing sequentially on rows of data, we process on sheets of data at a time, entire matrices in one clock cycle. And that's what we do at Procyon as well. We create an optical version of a TPU that we use to power our research. So here we have some specs. We actually manufactured this optical computer chip in Canada. We got it manufactured in Canada, a few prototypes in Maryland as well. And these are some specs we got after many trials, thousands of trials, sending lasers into our machine. The most important specs are here. I don't think the ways. Yeah, the most important specs are here. There would be performance, 7 teraflops for a 4x4 matrix, which is on par with Intel chips. But more importantly, we have a 245 teraflops per watt performance per watt rating, which is completely phenomenal. Because that's the real benefit with using light in terms of electricity. You get extremely performant computer chip and really good energy ratings. And of course, these are all prototypes. If we scale them up to industry standards, there are going to be a lot of things like interference and noise and even conversion loss that make our specs go down. But more or less, we project that these will be the specs for 256 by 256 chip when left as a raw silicon die. So I think moving ahead here, the main aspect of this talk, I guess, would be how do you take the chip that we manufactured, the optical chip, and how do you run this new programming language called Apollo, by the way, for light? How do you run this new programming language on this optical chip? What are the compiler infrastructure, and what is the exact new optical data storages that are created in order to facilitate easy running of this chip? And so we have a software stack model here. It's a 2-stage compiler format, similar to Java. And this enables us to integrate a virtual machine into our mix so that, as I said, we're not going to be the only processor in the market, right? In the future, there's going to be some other processor, something that's better than us. So what we need is something that can just be swapped out and just plugged into our programming language whenever a new, better version of the chip comes out. So we keep a layer for the virtual machine here. So moving ahead, the way the compiler works on a technical level, the input program gets fed into a host computer. Let's say you want to take your MacBook, right? So this would be like you have your own host computer, then you have your optical chip that you plug into your host computer, and the input program will get run directly on your host computer. It would get compiled down to abstract syntax tree and then some various optimizations that are done on the syntax tree. And then all the parts and everything, it's all handwritten. Then after that, we'll generate a sequence of virtual machine instructions that are native to our matrix processors and running entire matrices at a time. Then each of those pre-processing steps, splitting multi-dimensional tensors into sequences of matrices, unrolling matrices, partitioning, all of that is done on the traditional compiler frontend. And we're able to support these 5 operations listed here. Then all of that is taken into the compiler backend. So let's take an example case here, right? Let's say you have a hyperdimensional tensor. Let's say a 3-dimensional tensor, because 3-dimensional is there. And we unroll that 3-dimensional tensor into a sequence of multiple matrices, as shown here, into a sequence of multiple matrices. Then each of those matrices is converted into a series of light wave angles. Then each of those light wave angles are sent to the computer chip for processing, then reported back. And then those are rippled back up the compiler. And all of that is done by the compiler backend. There's a lot more things happening under the hood regarding bit conversions and compilation into exact specific angles and so on. But on a high level, that's what it is. And then the last thing that's also very important, I know it's mentioned a lot in other presentations, sparsity, right? If you have a large neural network, like a convolutional neural network or a large, really any type of application, what you're going to find is that you're going to have a lot of missing values, a lot of null values, that come from being the real world, right? So a lot of these missing values, they'll end up in your matrices as zeros. So your matrices will have mostly zeros, your tensors will have mostly zeros, and it's essential to store these zeros in a memory efficient way to allow your hardware to fully access its true potential. So there have been existing formats for this, like CSF, compressed sparse fiber, coordinate format, compressed sparse row, diagonal, and so on. However, we found that these formats are suboptimal for optical hardware, so we invented our own format called GSTT format. This format, when tested against other formats, it has the same memory efficiency as compressed sparse fiber, but it's also O of 1 in terms of matrixization, as opposed to O of n for compressed sparse fiber. So it's pretty much the time complexity of coordinate format combined with the memory storage efficiency of CSF. But the drawback is this is only for our optical hardware. It's not generalizable on Intel CPUs or anything, just fundamentally because of how the tree is constructed. So as a quick summary, considering I only have 3 seconds, in this talk, just quickly, we went back to computing, rebooted it, and we introduced programming language, computer chipset, and architecture for exactly how to keep up with the next wave of Moore's law, or next wave of AI. Yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Any questions from the audience? No? I have a question. Tachyon 1.
Sorry?
Tachyon 1. From the native code, virtual machine underneath, and then the instructions can be compiled by the T9026.
Yeah, that's
What is the role of the T9026?
So that's the name of our instruction set, the T1926. So what we're referring to is you take any tensor algebra program. Let's take this one here, for example, and that gets compiled by the compiler frontend into a sequence of high-level virtual machine instructions that could be run on a Google processor or any matrix processor or the Tachyon processor that we created. And then that's compiled into a really instruction-specific instruction set called, for example, for Intel, it would be x86. For us, it's called T1926. Mm-hmm. And that instruction set is what we then turn into phase angles and voltages through the compiler.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's basically x86 for our hardware.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's a key point. And how to merge between the host ACM, ASM, and Tachyon 1 have to be merged to the host CPU. How to?
That requires some scheduling. So whenever you have an instruction tree, you have to go through the instruction tree and you have to see if an instruction does it involve matrix operations or does it not. If it does, you send it to that. If not, you keep it.
I understand. Okay. Any other questions? Oh yes. Go ahead.
So it's based on using lights.
Yeah.
But it's like a continuous analog computer, right?
Yeah.
So how light? Is it just the strength of the light inside the?
Oh yeah, it's actually the square root of the intensity. So it was the amplitude of the electric field of the light wave that gets passed through it. So the brighter the light, the higher the number represented. The lower the light, the lower the number. So the microchip actually has like a column of like on-chip lasers, and each of those lasers, like the brightness of the laser, indicates the